My name is Maya Schaefer, and I'm 28 years old. For most of my 20s, I thought I had love all figured out, stable, loyal, built on hard work and trust. Turns out love can look a lot like slow self-erasure when you're the only one doing the building. I met Robert 5 years ago at a friend's rooftop party downtown, the kind where fairy lights glow too warmly and everyone pretends to be effortlessly interesting. I wasn't looking for anyone that night. I'd just gotten promoted at the marketing firm, still smelling like printer toner and exhaustion. He was the one who came over holding a half-empty beer and that confident grin men wear when they're used to getting attention. He talked about dreams, launching a startup, traveling the world, never settling for average. I remember thinking how alive he sounded. I was drawn to that fire. By the end of the night, he'd made me laugh, and I hadn't done that in weeks. Fast forward a few months, and suddenly we were inseparable. I fell for the version of him who called me his calm in the chaos. He'd say, "You ground me, Maya. You make me better." I wanted to believe that I was helping him become the man he wanted to be. When he decided to go back for his master's degree, I was proud. He said it was our investment, our future. So I covered more of the rent, picked up freelance work, cooked dinner after long days. I even stayed up proofreading his business proposals while he slept beside me. He'd kiss my forehead and whisper, "I couldn't do this without you." And I'd smile because I didn't realize that was the problem, that he meant it literally. For a while, everything seemed fine. Weekends together, spontaneous road trips, coffee runs before sunrise. Then came Chloe. She was his best friend from college, the one who just gets him. At first, I didn't think much of it. Every text notification that popped up, "Chloe." You won't believe this seemed harmless. But slowly the frequency grew. They'd hang out alone, grab dinner, see movies as friends. I'd ask softly, never accusing. "Hey, is it weird for you that you spend so much time with her?" He'd smile that disarming smile. "She's like my sister, babe. Don't be insecure." The word insecure sat in my chest like a rock. I wasn't jealous, I was unsettled. There's a difference. But every time I tried to explain that, he'd make me feel like the problem. "God, Maya, you're overthinking again. Chloe's harmless." So I backed off. Told myself love means trust, that I wasn't going to be one of those women who checks phones or sets boundaries that sound like rules. But still small cracks began to form. Little things like when he'd cancel dinner plans because Chloe needed to talk, or when I'd hear him laugh harder on the phone with her than he ever did with me. One night we were lying on the couch watching a movie. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, smiled, and started typing. I asked teasingly, "Chloe again." He looked up with a smirk. "You jealous?" "No," I said, but it came out too quickly. He chuckled, locking the screen. "Relax. You're the only one I love." And maybe that was true in his mind. But love shouldn't have to come with a disclaimer. Later, as he fell asleep beside me, I stared at the glow of his phone screen lighting the nightstand. Notifications kept coming, one after another. I turned away, pretending I didn't care. A few days later, I was scrolling through his Instagram, nothing snoopy, just casual when I saw it. A photo of him and Chloe at some bar, arms around each other, faces close, both laughing. Caption, "Best nights with my favorite person. Had I BFF goals." The comments made my stomach twist. "You two are adorable couple goals. Wait, where's Maya?" He hadn't tagged me. He hadn't even mentioned me. I told myself it didn't mean anything that people post carelessly, but a quiet part of me, the part that still remembered how his tone changed when he talked to her, whispered that I was lying to myself. That night, I tried to bring it up gently. "Hey, about that post with Chloe." He didn't even look up from his laptop. "What about it?" It just felt, I don't know, weird. The caption, the way people commented. He sighed dramatically, shutting his laptop. "Maya, I can't keep doing this. Every time I talk to her, you act like I'm committing a crime. I need you to trust me." "I do trust you," I said quietly. "I just wish you saw how this looks from my side." He got up, grabbed his jacket. "You know what, I'm going for a drive. You need to chill." The door slammed. I sat on the couch, staring at the reflection of the empty doorway. My dinner had gone cold. In the silence, I thought about the promises we made, about all the ways I'd built my life around someone who still acted like he was single. Love, I realized, can sometimes sound like compromise, but feel like self-erasure. That night, I couldn't sleep. I opened my journal, something I hadn't done in months, and wrote, "If he ever had to choose between my peace and her excitement, I know which one he'd pick." I didn't know then how right I was. The next morning, I woke to the sound of the shower running. Robert's phone buzzed again. Chloe's name flashing on the screen. I turned it face down and walked away. At work later that week, I saw another post. Same bar, same arm around her, same caption, just different night. My fingers hovered over the unfollow button, but instead I put my phone down. Not because I didn't care, but because caring had started to hurt. I told myself maybe all couples hit this phase, the dull ache, the silence. Maybe things would smooth out after his exams. But deep down, I knew something was already cracking, something I couldn't patch with trust alone. Still, I stayed. Because love, as I'd learned, isn't always about being happy. Sometimes it's about waiting for the other person to notice you're fading. And Robert, he never noticed. Not when I stopped cooking dinner. Not when I stopped waiting up for him. Not when I started sleeping with my back turned. Because the truth is, when someone's already halfway out the door emotionally, you'll feel the draft long before they leave. I remember the moment everything shifted. It was late one night and I'd finished work early. I decided to stop by his favorite bar, the one he said he only went to with the guys. I saw him through the window before I even stepped inside. He was at a corner booth, laughing head tilted, that same unguarded joy I hadn't seen in months. Across from him sat Chloe. She reached over, touched his hand. He didn't pull away. I didn't go in. I didn't make a scene. I just stood there in the rain, watching the reflection of their smiles blur against the glass. When I finally walked home, my heels clicking against the wet pavement, I felt something inside me settle. Not anger, not heartbreak, just quiet understanding. He'd already made his choice. He just didn't have the courage to say it yet. It happened 3 weeks later. By then, I'd convinced myself that I was overreacting, that maybe what I saw that night was just a moment taken out of context. That's what people in love do, right? They rationalize the red flags until they're white enough to ignore. Robert had been distant but polite. We still shared breakfast, still exchanged goodnight kisses that felt rehearsed. He said he was stressed about work and needed time to think. I wanted to believe that meant about us. So I tried to lighten things up. He'd been talking about wanting to get away, so I surprised him. 2 tickets to a weekend music festival out of town, the one he'd mentioned months ago. I even got a hotel booked near the venue, small but cozy. When I told him, he smiled but didn't meet my eyes. That's thoughtful, he said slowly. But I can't. Chloe's going through something, and she asked me to go hiking with her this weekend. I already promised. I froze. You promised? Yeah, it's been planned for weeks. That was a lie. 2 nights ago, he'd said he had no weekend plans. Still, I bit my tongue. You can't reschedule. He looked at me like I was being unreasonable. She's my friend Maya. It's just a hike. Don't make it weird. I nodded and smiled. That brittle practice smile you wear when you're trying not to break in front of someone who stopped seeing you long ago. Have fun, I said quietly. That Saturday, I watched his car disappear down the street, music playing loud, window cracked open. He didn't text me once that day, but later that night my phone lit up. Notification, Chloe posted a story. Curiosity 1. I opened it. A video of Robert laughing, standing on a rocky cliff at sunset, arm around her shoulders. Her voice in the background. We made it to the top, just us two. Just us two. My thumb trembled. The comments poured in. Cute couple, you two look perfect together. Her reply, a heart emoji. I stared at the screen until it dimmed. Then I turned off my phone and sat in silence, feeling my heartbeat thud against my ribs. That night I couldn't sleep. I replayed every conversation, every reassurance. The way he'd said you're being insecure. Maybe he'd gaslighted me so often I'd stopped trusting my own instincts. By morning, I decided I'd confront him not with anger, but with clarity. I deserved at least that much. When he returned Sunday night, I was waiting at the kitchen table. Candles lit, dinner cold. I wanted to stay calm. No screaming, no accusations, just truth. He came in humming, tossing his keys onto the counter, scrolling through his phone. Probably texting her. Hey, I said. My voice was steady, but my hands trembled under the table. Can we talk? He looked up briefly. Now I'm tired. It's important. He sighed and dropped onto the chair across from me. Okay, what is it this time? I turned the laptop toward him. The email was open, his flight confirmation. 2 tickets, 1 hotel suite. Names Robert Matthews and Chloe Ellis. Destination Coral Bay Resort. His face went blank, then hard. What's this? I asked softly. He leaned back in his chair. You went through my email. It popped up on our shared calendar. I paused. You told me you were going on a guys' trip. So, who are the guys? He exhaled sharply like he was the one being wronged. It's not what it looks like, Maya. Then explain it. He rubbed his temples. Chloe had miles to use. The girls who were supposed to come with her canceled, so she asked me. It's just a beach trip. You're reading too much into it. A beach resort, I said quietly. A couple's suite, he scoffed. It's just what was available. God, you're always twisting everything into drama. Robert, I whispered, why lie? That broke his composure. He stood up pacing. I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you because you'd react exactly like this. Always suspicious, always paranoid. You make me feel trapped. I stared at him, feeling my pulse in my throat. Trapped. Yeah. You've become predictable, controlling. Everything has to be your way, your schedule, your rules. Chloe makes me feel alive again. She doesn't smother me with guilt. The room fell silent except for the low hum of the refrigerator. So you're saying I ask slowly that you're not happy here, he shrugged. Not really. I need to breathe. I can't keep pretending this routine is enough. 5 years, Robert. My voice cracked. 5 years of building this life together. Was that all routine to you? He laughed bitterly. You call this a life? We don't even have fun anymore. We're roommates with history. Chloe reminds me what it's like to feel something. Something in me snapped. Not in anger, in clarity. So that's it, I said. You've already replaced me. He turned away. It's not like that. Chloe's helping me figure out what I want by taking you to a resort. He looked back at me, irritation in his eyes. You wouldn't understand. For a long moment, I said nothing. I just looked at him, really looked. The man standing in front of me wasn't the same one I fell in love with. He was already gone emotionally halfway to another life, another woman. Finally, I spoke. You're right, I don't understand. But I do know one thing, you don't need my permission to destroy what we built. He crossed his arms. What's that supposed to mean? It means, I said quietly, I'm done fighting for someone who doesn't want to stay. He blinked, unprepared for my calmness. Maya, don't make this a scene. I'm not. I'm giving you what you wanted, freedom. He laughed mockingly. You'll regret this. Maybe, I said. But I'd rather regret walking away than regret staying with someone who makes me feel invisible. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. He turned back to his phone, typing something quickly, maybe to her. I watched the glow of the screen light up his face, and for the first time I didn't feel pain, just emptiness. When he finally went to bed, I sat alone in the kitchen. The candle had burned out the wax pooling in soft folds. I traced the edge of the plate where his untouched dinner sat and whispered to the empty room, You don't need my permission, Robert, but don't expect my forgiveness either. I stood up, blew out the last flicker of flame, and walked to the bedroom. He was already asleep, back turned to me, peaceful, as if nothing had happened. I packed a small bag, just clothes for a few days, and placed it by the door. I didn't plan to leave that night. Not yet. I just wanted to be ready when the moment came. As I crawled into bed beside him, I felt the distance like a wall. The man breathing steadily next to me was a stranger, and I realized I didn't even want to reach for him anymore. When the morning light crept through the blinds, I lay awake and listened to the quiet rhythm of his breathing. That was the last morning I ever woke up next to him. The next evening, I came home to find the apartment dark and quiet. Robert's shoes were gone, his jacket missing from the hook. A note on the counter read, Don't wait up. Meeting Chloe for dinner. I remember standing there, holding that slip of paper, feeling an odd calm wash over me. It wasn't anger anymore, it was finality. The kind that settles deep in your bones. When you realize something's already dead, you've just been keeping it on life support. I didn't cry. I didn't even text him. Instead, I turned on the lamp, sat at the kitchen table, and opened my laptop. Bank account. Separate. Streaming subscriptions. Canceled. Lease agreement. Reviewed the clause about early termination. For once, I wasn't reacting emotionally. I was planning. That night, I packed methodically. Clothes, toiletries, the coffee maker, because that was mine, bought with my first paycheck, a small box of books. I left everything else. No rage, no vengeance, just detachment. When I finished, I wrote a short note in my neatest handwriting and placed it where his would be impossible to miss. You're right. You don't need my permission. The apartment's yours. Good luck. That was it. No drama, no explanations. The next morning, before the sun came up, I loaded my car and drove away. The city was quiet at dawn, that in-between hour when everything feels suspended. I passed the coffee shop where we used to stop every Sunday, the park where he first told me he loved me. Each landmark felt smaller now, stripped of its meaning. I didn't go far, just across town to my friend Sophie's place. She'd offered me her guest room weeks ago when she noticed how distant I'd become. When she opened the door and saw the bags in my hands, she didn't ask questions. She just pulled me into a hug. Finally, she whispered, "For the first few days, I moved like a ghost. Ate when I remembered. Slept in fragments. Every sound felt too loud, a door closing, a phone buzzing, laughter from another room. But then something unexpected happened. The silence started to feel freeing. I made coffee just the way I liked it, strong, no sugar. I started running again at sunrise, earbuds in the world, still half asleep. I signed up for an online course I'd been putting off for years. The emptiness that used to scare me now felt like space to breathe, to rebuild. Still, some nights I'd catch myself checking my phone, wondering if he'd noticed I was gone. He didn't call, not once. But then a week later, Sarah, a mutual friend, texted me, "Hey, are you okay? Robert's back from the trip. Things sound bad." I stared at the message for a long time, then typed back, "I'm fine. What happened?" Her reply came fast. Long story short, the vacation was a disaster. He and Chloe fought nonstop. She ended up leaving early. I didn't ask for details. I didn't need to. Karma has a way of writing its own script. That night I journaled again. Sometimes peace doesn't come when things are fixed. It comes when you finally stop trying. Over the next few weeks, I focused on rebuilding my routine. At work, I poured myself into a new campaign, staying late, impressing my manager enough to earn a quiet, "We're considering you for promotion next quarter." I'd walk home through the city lights, earbuds, and breathing in the freedom of not having to text anyone where I was. I started to recognize myself again, the version of me that existed before the compromises, before the gaslighting, before I learned to apologize for wanting basic respect. Sophie would tease me gently. "You look lighter, you know that." "Maybe I am," I'd say. Then came the dreams. Not nightmares, just memories replaying like films I no longer felt connected to. The night he first told me he loved me. Our first trip together. The night we stayed up planning our future. All those scenes now felt like they belonged to someone else's life. 2 weeks later, I went out with some coworkers to celebrate the end of a big project. I laughed so hard that night my cheeks hurt, something I hadn't done in months. When I got home, I saw his name on my phone screen for the first time since I'd left. Robert. My chest tightened. I didn't pick up. He didn't leave a voicemail. And that silence, that absence of begging of explanation told me everything. He didn't call because he still believed I'd come back on my own. Because he'd never imagined I could actually leave. The arrogance of that realization made me smile. I blocked his number before I could second-guess it. Days turned into weeks. The raw ache faded into dull acceptance. My mornings became brighter, my nights quieter. I filled my free time with things I'd abandoned: painting, cooking for fun, even taking weekend trips with Sophie. And yet sometimes when I least expected it, the grief returned, sharp and sudden. Like when I passed a couple laughing on the street or heard a song we once played on repeat. But instead of pushing it away, I let it come. I sat with it. Because healing isn't forgetting, it's remembering without breaking. Then one morning I got another text from Sarah. "You won't believe this. Chloe's blocked Robert on everything. Apparently he tried to flirt with one of her friends during the trip. She posted some cryptic quote about betrayal looking like friendship." I read it twice, then put my phone down. There was no satisfaction, only quiet closure. Later that day, I stopped by my favorite cafe. The barista recognized me. "Haven't seen you in a while," she said, smiling. "Yeah," I replied, returning the smile. "Been catching up on life." It felt strange how peaceful it was to speak the truth out loud. That night, as I stood by the window watching the rain fall, I thought about Robert again. Not the man he was, but the lesson he left behind. Sometimes people teach you how to love better by showing you what love is not. And as thunder rumbled softly in the distance, I whispered to the empty room, "Thank you for leaving when you did. You just didn't know it saved me." By the time the month ended, I no longer woke up reaching for a ghost. The quiet that once haunted me had turned into something sacred, a calm rhythm I didn't realize I'd missed. Then one morning while making coffee, my phone buzzed again. "Sarah, you might want to hear this." I hesitated before opening it. Her next message came with a screenshot Chloe's social media post public for everyone to see. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Lesson learned. The comments below were relentless. "Wait, are you talking about Robert? Did he cheat on you too?" The story unfolded faster than I expected. Apparently, their romantic getaway had been anything but romantic. According to Sarah and a few gleeful mutual friends who lived for drama, Robert had turned into someone even Chloe couldn't tolerate. He'd gotten jealous when a waiter smiled at her on the first night, accused her of flirting, stormed out of dinner. The next day, she caught him chatting up another woman by the pool, laughing the same way he used to laugh with me. By midweek, he was drunk, angry, and pathetic. Chloe called it off right there at the resort and left him stranded with the bill. By the time he flew home, she'd blocked his number, deleted every photo, and started posting vague self-love quotes. Robert predictably came back to an empty apartment, half his things gone, half his pride shattered. Sarah told me he panicked. Apparently he called the cops thinking the place was robbed, then realized, "You just took your stuff." I couldn't help it, I laughed. Not cruelly, just softly. That kind of poetic justice doesn't come often. But I didn't gloat, I didn't reach out, I didn't need to. Because karma had already sent him the message I never had to write. Over the next few weeks, word spread. Mutual friends stopped defending him. Some even messaged me privately. One said, "I'm sorry, Maya. We should have seen it. He used to brag about how loyal you were. Guess he wanted to see how far he could push that." I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. Meanwhile, my own life began to bloom in quiet ways. At work, my focus sharpened. I landed that promotion my manager hinted at campaign director. The first day in my new office, I sat by the window with a cup of coffee and realized I'd once made myself small so Robert could feel big. Now I was done shrinking. Sophie noticed it too. "You've got that glow," she teased one night over wine, like someone who stopped apologizing for existing. I smiled. Maybe I just remembered who I am. Still, the universe has a wicked sense of humor. 2 months after my promotion, my phone buzzed with an email notification. Subject: "We need to talk." From Robert Matthews. I stared at it for a long time. I shouldn't have opened it, but curiosity is a stubborn thing. "Hey, I know you're mad, but this is ridiculous. The apartment's a mess without you. The trip with Chloe was a mistake. Nothing happened. I just needed space and it got out of hand. Can we meet? I miss you. I miss our routines." Routines. That's what he missed, not me. I closed the email and pressed delete. No response. A week later came another. "Please, Maya, let's talk. I'm sorry. I'll do anything." Then came the texts from numbers I didn't recognize, burner apps probably. "You can't just vanish like this. I know you still love me. We can fix this." I ignored them all. But it didn't stop there. One evening while walking home, my phone rang again, a number I didn't know. I answered before I could think. "Maya, it's Linda Roberts' mom." My chest tightened. "Mrs. Matthews, She didn't let me finish. "I don't know what's going on between you two, but Robert's miserable. He says you just left. You broke him, dear." Broke him. The irony nearly made me laugh. "Mrs. Matthews," I said gently, "I didn't break him. I just stopped pretending he wasn't already broken." And before she could scold me further, I ended the call. 2 days later, another number popped up LinkedIn notification. A message from Chloe Ellis. "Hey, I know you don't owe me anything, but I just wanted to say you were right about him. I'm sorry if I ever made you feel small. He's not who I thought he was." I read it twice, then a third time, then deleted it without replying. Apologies mean little when they come from the same people who helped bury you. After that, the noise finally stopped. No more calls, no emails, just silence. And in that silence, I built something new. I started journaling more, not about the past, but the future. I bought a new camera and began taking weekend photography trips. I met new people, colleagues, friends of friends, who didn't know me as Robert's girlfriend, just Maya. It was liberating. 3 months after I left, I walked into the same cafe where Robert and I had our first date. The barista recognized me. "Haven't seen you two in a while." I smiled. "It's just me now." She nodded knowingly. "You seem happier." I was. Later that night, I ran into Sarah again. She couldn't wait to tell me the latest. Apparently, Robert's spiral hadn't stopped. He'd missed deadlines, gotten demoted, even moved back with his parents temporarily. "Guess he finally learned what it's like to be bored and safe," she joked. I didn't laugh. I just sipped my coffee and said, "He learned what it's like to lose something real." Because that's the thing about betrayal, it doesn't just destroy relationships. It exposes people to themselves. And sometimes that's punishment enough. That night I opened my journal and wrote, "The opposite of love isn't hate, it's peace." Then I closed it, turned off the lamp, and slept soundly for the first time in years. It was almost 3 months later when he finally showed up. Not digitally this time, not through another guilt-drenched email or a borrowed phone number. In person. It was a Wednesday morning, gray and drizzling. The kind of day that makes everything look like it's underwater. I'd gone to my favorite cafe, the one near my new apartment, to work on a pitch deck. I was deep in focus, earbuds in, when the bell over the door chimed. I looked up and froze. Robert. He looked different, thinner, unshaven. The confidence that used to radiate from him had shrunk into something fragile and uncertain. His eyes darted around the cafe until they found me. For a second, I thought about pretending not to see him, but I didn't. I pulled out my earbuds and waited as he approached my table, hands shoved in his pockets. Maya, he said, voice low and shaky. Can we talk? I closed my laptop and folded my hands calmly. About what? He pulled out the chair opposite me, sat down without asking. About us. There is no us, Robert. He leaned forward, desperation flickering in his eyes. I messed up. Okay, I know that now. Chloe, she wasn't what I thought. She used me. She was playing games, and I fell for it. I tilted my head slightly. She didn't make you lie to me, or book a trip behind my back, or tell me I was suffocating you. He exhaled sharply. You don't have to make this harder than it already is. I just want a chance to make things right. Why, I asked softly. Because Chloe left. Because your apartment's quiet now. Or because I stopped being the safety net you thought would always be there. His jaw clenched. Don't twist this. I'm not, I said. I'm just reminding you of what you taught me. I don't need your permission to move on. He sat back, shaking his head. You're colder than I remember. No, I said, I'm just not your caretaker anymore. He looked at me, really looked, and I could see the recognition dawning on him, the truth he hadn't wanted to face. I wasn't the woman he left behind. I'd outgrown the space he once kept me in. You can't just erase everything we had, he said finally, voice breaking. I'm not erasing it, I replied. I'm learning from it. He stared at me, eyes glassy. You loved me. I did, I said quietly. And you taught me what happens when love only flows one way. He laughed bitterly. So that's it. You just get to walk away. No closure, no forgiveness. Closure isn't something you get from someone else, I said, standing up. It's something you give yourself. He reached out, hand grazing my wrist. Maya, please, don't do this. I looked down at his fingers, the same ones that used to trace my face, now clinging out of fear, not love. Goodbye, Robert. I walked out before he could say another word. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets slick and glistening. I felt the air on my face sharp, clean, alive. For the first time, I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I was free. Weeks turned into months. The seasons shifted. I kept moving forward. Work thrived. My campaign landed a national client. I traveled to a conference in Singapore, stood on stage, speaking about creative leadership, and for once I didn't think about who was proud of me. I was proud of me. Somewhere along the way, I met Ethan. He wasn't loud or flashy like Robert. He didn't make grand speeches about freedom or passion. He just showed up steady, kind, and real. Our connection wasn't instant fireworks. It was warmth that grew steadily like sunrise breaking through fog. When he listened, he actually heard me. When he touched my hand, it wasn't to keep me from leaving. It was to remind me I didn't have to run. Then came Sarah's wedding. A soft September evening at a garden venue strung with golden lights. I went with Ethan. We'd been seeing each other for a few months, quietly, steadily. I didn't expect Robert to be there, but of course he was. Our friend circles overlapped, and fate, as always, loves symmetry. I spotted him near the bar, alone nursing a drink. His posture was heavier, his clothes wrinkled, a man who'd been carrying too many regrets for too long. Our eyes met. For a split second, I saw the flicker of recognition, then something like disbelief. Because I wasn't the same woman who'd once begged for his honesty. I was laughing, my hair pinned up, Ethan's hand resting easily on my back. I looked happy. Robert approached later, right as the band began playing something slow. Hey, he said softly. You look amazing. Thanks, I said. How have you been? He chuckled, self-deprecating. Surviving. Been in therapy. Trying to get my life together. That's good, I said. I hope it's helping. He nodded, hesitating. I realize now I took you for granted. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I threw it away. I looked at him for a long moment. You didn't throw me away, Robert. You just showed me where I didn't belong. He swallowed hard. I still think about you. Every day. I used to think about you too, I said gently. Until one day I didn't. He glanced past me, eyes catching on Ethan, waiting patiently nearby. His shoulders tensed. So that's him. Yes, I said simply. That's him. He looked back at me, bitterness and longing wrestling behind his eyes. Does he make you happy? He doesn't have to, I said. I already am. That landed like a blade, silent, clean final. He tried one last time. Can't we at least talk for old time's sake? I shook my head, smiling softly. You said once you didn't need my permission to be happy. Remember? Well, I don't need yours either. His mouth parted as if to reply, but no words came out. I walked away, my heels clicking against the cobblestone, and slipped my hand into Ethan's. He smiled, unaware of the storm behind me. As we danced under the golden lights, I caught a glimpse of Robert standing by the edge of the crowd, small alone, fading into the background. For once, I didn't feel pity. I felt peace. Because sometimes closure isn't a conversation. It's a moment when you realize the past has no power over your heartbeat anymore. The music from Sarah's wedding still echoed in my ears long after Ethan and I had driven home that night. I remember staring out the window of the car, watching the reflection of the streetlights blur against the rain-spotted glass. There was a time when endings made me ache, when I believed every goodbye needed to hurt to mean something. But that night I didn't feel pain, just completion. Ethan reached over, brushing his thumb against the back of my hand. "You okay?" he asked softly. I smiled. "Yeah, I think I finally am." He didn't press for details. He didn't need to. There was something sacred about being with someone who didn't demand explanations for your healing. When we got home, I hung up my dress, took off my heels, and poured us 2 cups of tea. The apartment smelled like lavender and rain. Ethan leaned against the counter, watching me move around the kitchen with a quiet, curious smile. "What?" I asked, laughing. "You seem lighter tonight," he said, "like you just let go of something." "Maybe I did," I replied. "Maybe someone." The next morning, I woke early. The city was still quiet sunlight stretching through the curtains in soft streaks. I made coffee, opened the window, and let the breeze roll in. For the first time in years, I didn't wake up thinking about what I'd lost. I thought about what I'd found: stillness, clarity, peace. There's a strange beauty in the aftermath of heartbreak. You start noticing how silence has texture, how loneliness has warmth when it's chosen, not inflicted. I used to think love was about sacrifice, about holding on no matter what it cost. But I've learned that real love, the kind that lasts, doesn't ask you to disappear to make space for someone else. Robert taught me that, not through his presence, but through his absence. 2 weeks after the wedding, a letter arrived in my mailbox. No return address, but I didn't need one to know who it was from. Inside was a single page. "Maya, I wanted to say I'm sorry one last time, not because I expect forgiveness, but because I finally understand the weight of what I did. You gave me everything, and I treated it like it would never end. I hope you're happy, truly. Take care of yourself. Robert." I folded the letter, once slid it back into the envelope, and placed it in a drawer. Not to keep it, but to remind myself of something important. Closure doesn't always come from slamming doors. Sometimes it comes quietly, like the end of a song you didn't realize had finished playing. I didn't write back. There was nothing left to say. Months passed. Seasons changed. Ethan and I built our rhythm. Gentle, steady, rooted in honesty. We weren't perfect, but we were present, and that mattered more than any grand promise of forever. One night we took a walk through the park where Robert once told me he loved me. The same path, the same wind rustling the leaves, but everything looked different now. I stopped for a moment, staring at the bench where I'd once sat crying years ago. Ethan noticed and squeezed my hand. "You okay?" I nodded. "Yeah, just remembering." He smiled. "Good memories, necessary ones," I said. We stood there for a while, watching the city lights shimmer on the lake. "I used to come here to think about everything I lost," I said quietly. "Now I come here to thank everything I survived." Ethan leaned down and kissed my forehead. "Then let's keep walking forward." And we did. Sometimes when I look back, it's not with anger or regret. It's with gratitude. Because that heartbreak, that slow, humiliating unraveling, forced me to rebuild myself piece by piece until I recognized my reflection again. Robert once said he needed to find himself. Funny thing is, so did I. The difference is, I actually did. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. You don't need anyone's permission to start over, not even your own. And maybe that's what freedom really is, the moment you stop waiting for closure. Stop rehearsing what you'd say if they came back and simply live. As I finish this story, I'm sitting by that same window, the morning light spilling across my coffee mug, the city alive below me. There's no grand twist, no revenge, no dramatic finale, just peace, the kind that comes when the storm finally spends itself. If you're listening to this, wondering whether to let go, here's my advice. Don't wait for permission. Walk away while your heart still remembers how to heal.